culture is not just about the past. Although a lot of time we look at a museum, we look at artifact, we think about the past. It's up to the young people to interpret what the past means to them.
Museum 2050 is an academic conference platform that me and my partner Lee founded, and it really has a two-pronged approach to what we're trying to do in China or in the Greater China region, and that's provide a community for young museum professionals to come together and be a resource for each other, but also a platform where young museum academics from all over the world can share their research with one another.
Museums are the place where art meets the public. They're the places where connections are formed between people and objects, but also increasingly, I think, between people and each other.
And in particular in China, they're fascinating because China is in the middle of what they call the museum boom.
在过去5年中，中国的私立和公共的美术馆，增加了60%，然后从之前的2600家到现在大概有4100家。所以我觉得就是在艺术行业或者文化产业，就是整个宏观来看的话，我觉得中国也是一个上升非常快的一个国家。
You have a very affluent middle class in China, and they want to consume cultural products. The problem or the interesting challenge in China is people are not socialized into museum going in the same way as they are in the West. So how do museums compete against other cultural spaces that are developing?
You can't just take what's done in a Western context and just parachute it in, but they have to adapt. They have to adapt to the local climate, they have to adapt to the people, they have to adapt to the technology.
Oftentimes things are happening so quickly here that there's a bit of a time lag in terms of getting it into publications, getting it into symposiums and exhibitions, certainly those outside of China, but even here within China. I think it's really important to discuss these issues and also to make other people within the community aware of them.
One of the challenges, but an interesting challenge, is how the Chinese museum is going to navigate the global landscape of museums where the word museum has a different implication in China than it does necessarily in the West. The Chinese museum, in some cases, is not a nonprofit institution. It's not a permanent institution, and it may have a business-oriented and more commercial approach.
Well, there's two things in Chinese museums that make them very different from museums in other places in the world, and these are actually two very banal or obvious things almost. One is they're very new, and two is they're very big.
大家现在首先场馆就是建得越来越就是完整，就是你可以看到各种形式、各种各样形式的艺术都可以最完美的呈现。
Because you see that actually the art in China is actually bigger in size and in gestures than in many places around the world, and it's basically driven by the fact that artists have big studios, big spaces where they work in, and also the museums are very big, so there's the possibility to display big stuff, which sounds very simple, but it's actually it might have a huge impact on contemporary art itself actually.
那全球化就是我觉得意味着就是大家找到共性，那未来我觉得就是找个性的这么一个时代，所以我觉得中国在现当代美术馆或者是在全球化这么一个过程当中，应该是会越来越展现更多的关于中国艺术家、中国美术馆自己对于艺术的态度，所以我觉得还是应该是很大的一个。很积极，很积极，还是很有前景的，我觉得。
Very often you're not becoming international by importing. You're becoming international when you're exporting. When you start exporting attitudes, when people are quoting you, when suddenly people want to be like you, then you're proving yourself. Chinese institutions are being challenged. Suddenly they have the attention, and if you have the attention, you have the momentum. And you can play the momentum in different ways.
International interest for Chinese museum, I think right now is kind of this novelty. But over time, I think that will develop into a deeper relationship in terms of co-creating, co-presenting, and taking some of that co-creation back outside of China.
I think one of the biggest problems when it comes to institutions globally is that they look very much the same. They talk the same, they act the same, they have the same shows, etc., etc. If China dares to go its own way, I think Chinese institutions can play a vital role.
You know, the institutional landscape is not just purely rosy in China. There are big challenges. And what's happening is that as people face these various challenges, some are responding in really interesting, creative ways and will find a way to survive, and some will fail. But either way, this whole process here is how you reach a new synthesis about what a museum is and what it should be.
所以我觉得随着这些政策的提出，尤其是我们的这个民营的美术馆，我们有这个资金，然后有这种收藏的力量，可以将我们的艺术，尤其是中国的当代艺术，推广到国际性的舞台上。
不分国界，不分时代，也不分媒介，所以我觉得现代美术馆可以做到这一点，我觉得是非常好的。
And you know, culture is, if you let it grow, it's almost like a wave. It has a power.